Hey guys, tonight we slip into something a little quieter, a little stranger, and honestly, something you probably won't survive awake for. Not in a dramatic way, just in that soft, cozy, your eyelids are getting suspiciously heavy way. We're drifting to an old Greek riverbank where only the smallest myths ever bothered to whisper, and yet somehow, you've ended up right beside one of them, a minor river spirit. Not the flashy sort with a fan club, just the sort that minds its own business and tends to herbs like a shy gardener nobody wrote poems about. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're tuning in from somewhere new, drop your location and your local time in the comments. It's always fun watching the world gather for a nap. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the sound. A river that doesn't rush, doesn't roar, just murmurs, like someone politely clearing their throat over and over in the distance. You're lying on warm stone, your cheek pressed against it, and sunlight trickles through the trees above you as if they've decided to unzip the sky just a little. That brightness flickers on the water, and the whole river looks like it's trying on a new dress made of tiny mirrors. You sit up slowly, brushing a few blades of grass off your clothes, and that's when you see it, the small figure crouched at the water's edge. Not quite human, not quite shimmering in a dramatic, I am a god way, more like someone half forgotten, still debating whether showing up today was a good idea. The spirit's shape flickers between a young person and a ripple of light, the way heat bends everything above a summer road. The spirit tilts its head at you, curious but shy, like a deer deciding if you look like someone who might share snacks. One hand swirls in the water, and the ripples travel outward in slow circles. You feel something catch your attention, something tiny. You glance down and find a pebble beside your knee. Smooth, unusually cool, and etched with a little spiral that looks like it's been drawn by a fingertip rather than carved. The pebble feels like it's humming. Or maybe your fingers are just overachieving today. Hard to tell. The spirit gestures toward it, then toward the river. A kind of invitation. Or maybe a, hey, don't litter. Spirits are vague like that. You crouch closer, and the sound of the water becomes clearer, not louder, just more intentional. If rivers had handwriting, this one would have the neatest cursive. It babbles, but politely. Like if it ever grew rowdy, the other rivers would stage an intervention. A soft breeze brushes the tall reeds, and they sway like sleepy metronomes marking a tempo no one bothered to write down. You notice a small plant near the water. Thin stems, dew clinging so stubbornly you'd swear each drop had a tiny schedule it refused to deviate from. The spirit gently taps one stem and looks at you as if to say, pay attention. The leaves shimmer even though the sun hasn't reached them yet. You've seen herbs before, sure, but none that glimmer like they're participating in a beauty pageant. You reach out to touch one. It's cooler than you expected, almost cold, actually. And the dew drop at its tip is so perfectly round, you start mentally composing a review, 10/10 moisture distribution. As you roll the dew between your fingers, you catch a faint scent. Clean, crisp, like morning air that's been filtered through a linen sheet. It's calming, too calming. That kind of calming where you start rationalizing questionable decisions, like napping on a rock. The spirit smiles barely and taps the herb again, then points downstream. A gesture, a suggestion, maybe a gentle nudge. This is where it begins. You take a step and your shoes crunch softly in the sand. For a moment, you wonder if this is how ancient healers learned by wandering riverside paths and hoping the local minor deities weren't having a bad day. A mainstream fact drifts into your mind. Greeks believed river spirits, or patamoi, were sons of the great river Oceanus, though the minor ones weren't dignified enough for family reunions. This spirit, definitely one of the minor ones, the kind that shows up to family gatherings but stands near the wall the whole time, holding a drink and pretending to text. You follow it along the bank, and as you walk, the river's sound changes. Not dramatically, just subtle shifts, like the river is giving a TED talk about hydrodynamics and you're the only one in the audience. Long pauses, small murmurs, then a soft hiss of water kissing rocks. There's something quirky you remember reading somewhere, that some Greek villagers once believed that certain herbs only revealed their power to people who woke earlier than dawn. Anyone who overslept? Too bad. The herbs simply refused to cooperate, like moody teenagers. Whether that's true or not, historians still debate. But at least here, the dew-heavy plants seem perfectly content that you've shown up whenever you've shown up. No judgment. Just plants minding their business and the soft hum of a river that's seen too much drama to care anymore. The spirit pauses where the bank curves inward, forming a little half moon of shore. It kneels and scoops water in its hands, letting it drip slowly back into the river. Each drop lands with a slightly deeper plink than seems physically possible. You hear it 1, 2, 3, like someone tapping crystal. You lean closer, and the spirit nudges something toward you. Another pebble? No, a tiny seed pod, shaped like a teardrop. You pluck it from the wet sand. It's warm, oddly warm, as if it's been sitting by a fire instead of lying in cool earth. The spirit touches its temple, then yours. A gentle gesture, almost comforting. A message without words. Listen. So you do. You kneel, holding the seed pod between your fingertips, and suddenly you notice the faintest vibration. The way a cat purrs when it's deeply committed to staying exactly where it is. You tilt it closer to your ear, half expecting a dramatic mythic revelation, and instead, you hear something like a tiny, the world's most polite knock. You laugh quietly. The spirit's shoulders shake just enough to suggest it's laughing too. Or maybe it's just vibrating in sympathy. Either way, the moment feels shared. Farther along the bank, a dragonfly sweeps past its wings, slicing the air with that papery flick that always sounds like somebody flipping through a very tiny book. Its body glints blue, the same shade as the pebble in your hand. You roll the pebble between your fingers again, and the spiral mark catches the light. The spirit notices. It taps the pebble gently, then points to the ripple pattern moving across the river. For a split second, the spiral on the pebble and the spiral in the water align perfectly, as if the stone is a miniature map of the river's mood. A river GPS, but like analog and moody. You look up at the spirit. It nods, encouragingly. You get the sense this stone isn't just decorative. It's a guide, or a key. Or maybe it's just a rock that looks really cool. Historians, surprisingly, don't have much to say about spiral pebbles carried by semi-transparent river beings. Big miss on their part. A soft gust of wind moves through the reeds, and they bend toward the water. The spirit gestures for you to follow them again. Its footsteps don't disturb the sand, which feels unfair because yours absolutely do. But then again, your footsteps make a satisfying crunch sound, and honestly, that's half the joy of walking near water. You trail the spirit to a quieter part of the river, if that's even possible, and kneel beside it. Here, the water is so clear you can see pebbles, darting fish, and the occasional unattended stick drifting like it's late for an appointment. The spirit motions toward the water again, and you dip your hand in. Cool, soft, a little electric. Not like zap electric, more like the kind of tingle you get when carbonated water touches your fingertips. You swirl your hand slowly, and the current shifts in patterns that feel intentional. Like the river is nudging you, guiding your hand to trace lazy spirals that mimic the mark on your pebble. You draw a spiral on the water surface, and the spirit nods as if you've just recited a flattering poem about its personality. Quiet approval warms you, even if you're not entirely sure what you've done right, but something has clicked, something small, gentle, and patient. This river, this spirit, this herb-sprinkled bank, they're all connected. They're teaching you something, but not through lectures or dramatic revelations. Through sound, touch, and little nudges. through soft pebbles and shimmering herbs and dew that refuses to behave like normal water. And you realize this is how the minor spirit learned its peaceful charms. Not through power, not through divine instruction, but through listening. Listening to the river, listening to the herbs, listening to the world in ways humans rarely slow down enough to hear. The spirit taps your pebble again and gives you a small nod, a beginning. And somewhere inside you, something answers. The moon rises earlier than expected tonight, slipping into the sky like someone sneaking into a theater after the show has already started. You notice it first in the silver glow on the river, long streaks of light stretching toward you, flickering as ripples break them into tiny pieces. The air shifts too, from warm and earthy to something cooler, quieter, as though even the insects have agreed to whisper. The river spirit stands at the edge of the bank, waiting for you not impatiently, but the way a friend waits when they know you'll catch up eventually. Its outline sharpens under the moonlight. Not more defined, exactly, but more focused. Like the moon has decided it's time for the spirit's close-up. You step closer, the spiral-marked pebble still in your hand. It's warmer now, not hot, but a pleasant warmth, like a pocket stone that's been carried all day. The spirit gestures toward the water, then toward the forest behind you. A clear message: follow. The path leads uphill, though path is generous. It's mostly a polite suggestion of dirt between roots. The moonlight spills over everything, on leaves, on stones, on your hands, and you start to see tiny bursts of brightness along the ground. Fireflies, except they're slower, more graceful. Honestly, they look like they're floating on a salary. The spirit stops at the edge of a thicket, lifts its hand, and the leaves part just enough for you to slip through. On the other side, the world changes. The forest opens into a clearing where moonlight collects like milk poured into a bowl. Silver washes over the plants, the stones, and the soft grass beneath your feet. The air smells different, cleaner, sharper. You notice long stems rising from the ground, each tipped with pale leaves that glitter under the moon's rays. Not sparkle, not shine, glitter. Like stage makeup on plants? The spirit bends, plucks a single leaf, and holds it up. You lean closer. Tiny flecks of silver shimmer on the surface, so faint you would have missed them at any other time of day. The spirit brushes the leaf lightly against your cheek. The touch is cool, whisper soft, and immediately you sense something calm. Not sleepy calm, not dull calm. More like your thoughts organize themselves alphabetically. The spirit motions for you to take the leaf. You do. It's unexpectedly light, almost weightless. When you tilt it, the silver flecks shift and rearrange themselves, as though responding to the moon. You realize these herbs glow only under moonlight. A quirky detail, but also kind of fabulous. You want to ask how that works: bioluminescence? Magic? Bioluminescent magic? But the spirit taps the leaf once, then gestures toward another patch of plants, so you follow. This next cluster looks different. Thicker leaves, a muted teal rather than pale green, and stems that sway even though there's no breeze. You kneel beside them and lightly touch one. It hums. Soft, rhythmic, like the tiniest of heartbeats. The hum vibrates up your fingers, through your wrist, and straight into your shoulder, where it settles like a warm towel. The spirit taps the stem with the fingertip, and suddenly, the hum changes pitch a bit sharper, a bit quicker. You blink. Did you just tune a plant? You look at the spirit. The spirit shrugs. If spirits had a, yeah, plants do weird stuff. Don't overthink it. Shrug. This is it. You remember something you once read. Ancient Greek healers used moonlight to determine the potency of certain herbs. They believed the gods whispered hints through how the herbs reacted under lunar glow. Some historians argue that's poetic nonsense. Others think the practice was based on real observations about nighttime plant behavior. And then there are fringe scholars who insist the moonlight itself had measurable medical effects, though nobody's proven that, unless you count being outside at night feels nice as data. Here, though, Watching leaves glimmer and pulse like they're driven by moon batteries, you're starting to think the fringe scholars might not be as fringe as people assume. You wander deeper into the clearing. More plants reveal themselves, some with soft blue blossoms, some with thin petals curling like miniature scrolls, some shaped like tiny cups that catch moonlight and hold it for a few seconds before releasing it in a faint glow. Each plant seems to behave differently the moment you get close, as if recognizing you, or evaluating you, or just wondering if you brought snacks. The spirit guides you toward a broad, flat stone. It's smooth, almost polished, and cool beneath your palm. The spirit places your spiral-marked pebble on the stone. For a moment, nothing happens. Then a soft glow radiates from the spiral. Not bright, just the gentle pulse of moonlight reflected off water. The plants around the stone react instantly. Petals open wider, stems straighten, leaves soften. The stone itself becomes a sort of lighting stage, like someone turned on a spotlight, but set it to extreme subtlety. The spirit plucks one of the shimmering leaves and lays it beside your pebble. The leaf brightens, as though the stone amplifies whatever glow was already within it. You inhale deeply. The air carries a hint of something familiar, mint, maybe, and something else, a sweetness that isn't sugary, but comforting, like the scent of clean laundry hanging outside. The spirit gently nudges your hand, urging you to place your palm next to the pebble. You do. The stone is cool at first, then gradually warms under your touch. The glow increases, enough that you can see the reflection of the spiral on your skin. The spirit points from the pebble to the plants, then to you. A soft explanation spoken entirely through gesture. Moonlight reveals, but moonlight amplified reveals more. You're learning slowly that none of this magic is loud. None of it is dramatic or explosive. It's all subtle, patient. The kind of magic that would absolutely forget to put on its name tag at a conference. You notice something else. The plant's glow is strongest when the moon passes through a gap in the canopy overhead. So when a cloud drifts by and dims the light, the plants soften again, returning to their normal, unimpressive selves. You watch the forest breathe like this for a while, brightening, dimming, brightening. You murmur softly. It's like the plants inhale moonlight. The spirit tilts its head, considers, then nods. You gasp jokingly. Oh good, we're on the same page. I'm fluent in plant glow now. The spirit raises an eyebrow, not in confusion, more like please don't get cocky. You grin. Being humbled by a minor mythological being feels weirdly grounding. The spirit gestures again, this time toward a cluster of vines growing around a tree stump. These vines are unusual. Thin, translucent, and they glow a faint rose color under the moonlight. You brush them with your fingertips and instantly feel warmth radiate up your arm, but not heat, comfort, like emotional warmth, like someone just told you your work is appreciated. The spirit takes a single strand and ties it loosely around your wrist. The vine adjusts itself, settling gently into place. A soft pulse moves beneath your skin, matching your heartbeat. You exhale slowly. The vine's glow flickers in time with your breath. You look to the spirit in surprise. It gestures toward your wrist, toward the moon, then toward the clearing. Another unspoken explanation. Herbs respond to presence, to calm, to willingness. You whisper, they're alive. Then you add quickly. I mean, like emotionally alive, not just biologically. The spirit actually snorts, a tiny, amused sound, a river spirit amused at your plant gossip. You'll be bragging about this for weeks. You rise to your feet, your wrist vine glowing faintly, the pebble still humming lightly in your palm. The spirit steps closer, and for the first time, you see its face more clearly. Youthful, but timeless. Calm, but curious. Its eyes reflect moonlight in a way that makes them look filled with drifting stars. The spirit lifts its hand, tracing a line from your vine-wrapped wrist to the shimmering plants, then to the moon. It rests its hand lightly on your shoulder again. A final message for the night. This is how charms begin. Not in sunlight, in moonlight, in quiet, in patience. You nod. You understand. The spirit gives a small nod back, approving. Then it moves toward the edge of the clearing, pausing just long enough to make sure you're following. You take one last look at the moonlit herbs, glowing like tiny lanterns, arranged carefully by a too modest deity. And then you follow the spirit into the shadows beneath the trees, the silver-tipped leaves and shimmering petals lighting your path like quiet, celestial breadcrumbs. The path back toward the river turns quieter with every step you take. The spirit moves ahead of you without sound, no snapped twigs, no rustling leaves, no crunch of pebbles. Meanwhile, you're making enough noise to qualify as a one-person percussion section. Even the frogs seem to pause and listen whenever you pass, like they're rating your performance. But eventually, the forest thins, and you find yourself standing at a soft, sandy inlet, where the river spreads gently into a broad, shallow pool. The moon floats above you, bright enough to paint a silver trail across the water. You swear you can see the river's pulse slow, steady, like a heartbeat translated into ripples. The spirit steps into the water first. The surface accepts it instantly, no splash, no fuss. Just a soft fold of current around its ankles, like the river is saying, "Oh good, you're back." You follow. The water reaches your calves, cool and smooth. Then your knees. By the time you're standing knee-deep, you feel something shift beneath your feet. Not a rock, not a twig, something softer. Silt. The river silt is fine, cool, and strangely silky, like wet, powdered clay mixed with starlight. You wiggle your toes, and it moves with you, slipping, sliding, swirling. The sensation pulls your focus downward, grounding you in the river's rhythm. It's oddly soothing. You can almost feel the silt humming, though you tell yourself that must be imagination. But then again, with everything you've seen tonight, the bar for imagination is getting suspiciously high. The spirit gestures for you to kneel. You hesitate knee-deep in river water isn't where you saw your night going, but you lower yourself anyway. The silt shifts, sliding like a whisper around your legs. Your fingertips touch the surface, sending small ripples outward. The spirit kneels too, facing you. The moonlight touches its shoulders, outlining them with that same silver glow the plants loved. Its hands slide beneath the surface, scooping up a small mound of river silt. When it lifts its palms, the silt doesn't drip away the way you expect. Instead, it clings like soft, wet sand, holding its shape. The spirit blows lightly across it. The silt shifts, forming small ridges patterns, like gentle waves frozen mid-motion. You lean in. The spirit points to the ridges, then touches your wrist where the moon vine still glows softly. It wants you to feel the shape, so you reach out and drag a finger gently across the silt. The ridges melt beneath your touch, folding and reforming around your fingertip. Tiny currents vibrate through it, very faint, like the softest purring. The sensation travels into your arm, warming your skin. The spirit mimics your movement, running a fingertip through the silt. New ridges appear. These ones curve in spirals, tight, small, elegant spirals that remind you of the pebble in your pocket. You tap your pocket and give the spirit a knowing look. The spirit nods. A callback. A connection. You remember something you once heard, that ancient Greek villagers believed river currents carried messages. Not symbolic ones, literal ones. Some claim that if you watch the ripples long enough, you could learn things. Weather patterns, migratory habits, whether your neighbor was secretly stealing olives from your yard. The scientifically reasonable part of your brain wants to object, but the rest of you soaked in moonlight, glowing with vines, playing finger paint with mythological silt shrugs, and goes, yeah, checks out. Historians still debate whether river silt was ever used as a diagnostic tool for herbalists. Some say healers used it to read which roots were potent that season. Others argue that the silt readings were actually symbolic storytelling exercises for apprentices. And then there's that one fringe theory that river silt was a living entity with opinions, moods, and perhaps even a flair for passive-aggressive communication. Tonight, the fringe theory is winning. The spirit guides your hand back to the water. You let your fingers sink deeper this time, until they disappear into the silky layer beneath. Immediately, the coolness envelops you. The silt feels alive. Not in a creepy way, more like it's responding, acknowledging your presence. You can't explain it, but you feel it. The silt knows you're here. A fish darts past your ankle, brushing your skin like a quick kiss from a cold ribbon. You flinch. The spirit laughs silently, the soundless laugh of someone who absolutely saw that coming. You try to act dignified. You fail. You shuffle sideways, and your foot sinks deeper into the silt, all the way to your ankle. The river holds you gently, not trapping you, just anchoring you. You exhale, letting your shoulders drop. This is when the spirit points to a cluster of plants growing along the river bottom, long roots trailing through the silt like underwater hair. You can barely see them beneath the surface, but the spirit lowers your hand toward them. You touch a root lightly. It tingles. Then the silt around it shifts and presses closer to your fingers. The spirit nods. Another message. The roots speak through the river, through the silt, through the current. Listen. You concentrate. And slowly you feel it. A different kind of vibration. Faint, rhythmic, like a soft tapping from beneath the earth. You angle your head, unsure whether the sensation is physical or imagined. But then the tapping shifts when you move your hand closer to another root. Then it shifts again when you pull it back. These plants communicate through the riverbed. You whisper, "It's like they echo?" The spirit nods, and the silt carries the echo. Another nod. You laugh under your breath, so it is gossiping mud. The spirit blinks, hard, then gives you a patient look, as though it is silently weighing whether it regrets teaching you anything. Still, it lets you continue exploring. You move your hand slowly through the water, feeling the silt swirl and reform around your skin. Each swirl is different. Some vibrate with a buzzing energy, others feel cooled and calm, like resting your hands in shadow. The roots respond too, shifting ever so slightly. For a moment, you wonder if the river is trying to tell you something more specific, but then you realize this is the lesson. The silt is the teacher. The river is the interpreter. The spirit is the guide, and you are the one learning to listen between the ripples. The spirit scoops another handful of silt and presses it onto a large flat stone near the waterline. It smooths the silt out into a perfect circle. Then it draws a single line through it. The line splits into 2, then 4, then 8, then curls inward into a spiral. Your eyes widen. You pull out your spiral pebble. The spirit presses the pebble into the center of the silt circle. When it lifts it again, the pattern around it shifts, matches, echoes, responds. The silt diagram pulses faintly, yes, pulses like a soft drumbeat. You look up at the spirit. The pebble is a key, a nod, a guide, another nod, a river-approved collectible item with bonus magical properties. A very slow blink. You take that as a don't push it. You kneel beside the stone, watching the silt swirl and reform around the spiral imprint. Your fingertips hover over it. The spirit touches your wrist lightly, not to stop you, but to steady you. A silent reminder, be gentle. The river remembers gentleness. You breathe in. You press your fingertips lightly to the silt. The pattern shifts beneath your touch, turning into a second spiral, one shaped by you. Not just the pebble. Your spiral merges with the first. The silt settles. The shapes intertwine. The river murmurs, soft, approving. Something unlocks inside you, something quiet and deep, like a door you didn't know you had. You understand suddenly, instinctively. This river teaches through touch, through patience. through the steady pressure of time and current and silt. This is how the minor spirit learned its gentle magic. Not through power, through attunement. You sit back, hands sinking again into the cool water, the silt sliding around your ankles like silk. The spirit rests a hand on your shoulder again, a soft, steady weight. And the river hums in the moonlight, carrying your newfound understanding downstream like a secret wrapped in water. The river spirit leads you away from the shallows, guiding you toward a place where the trees grow close together like old friends whispering secrets. The moon still hangs overhead, but here the canopy trims its light into soft ribbons that dangle onto the path. You brush one ribbon aside, a beam of moonlight behaving like it has weight, and smile at how the forest seems to rearrange itself to make room for you. The vine on your wrist glows faintly, pulsing with your heartbeat. The spirit notices and taps it lightly, as though checking your progress, like a teacher giving you a subtle good job without wanting to make a big deal out of it. You continue walking until the scent changes. First, it's subtle, something bright at the edges of the night air. Not flowers exactly, not fruit, something cleaner, sharper, a note of brightness you can almost see. Then it grows, swirling through the branches until it fills your lungs on every breath. The spirit stops. A gentle hand at your elbow nudges you to take one more step forward. And then you see it, a hidden grove. Not a dramatic clearing of crashing waterfalls and ancient statues, just a quiet, intimate pocket of forest where the world seems to have paused. The air here is heavier with scent, thick with layered aromas that wrap around you like warm shawls. The grove is lit gently, not by moonlight alone, but by the faintest glow from the plants themselves. Different shades flicker softly in the dim light. Pale pink, soft gold, misty green, blue like the underside of a wave. All of it blending in a subtle, shimmering haze. It feels like stepping into the dream of a herbalist who fell asleep while labeling jars. The spirit steps forward and brushes its fingers along a vine hanging from a tree branch. The leaves tremble slightly, releasing a tiny cloud of fragrance that drifts towards you. You inhale. Instant calm. Not magical calm, not enchantment, just peace. The scent is crisp, like citrus without the sharpness, the way fresh linen might smell if it grew naturally on trees. It settles in your lungs, then your shoulders, then all the tiny muscles in your face you didn't realize you'd been clenching. The spirit smiles barely and motions for you to explore. You kneel beside one of the plants. The petals are small, white, and almost transparent, like thin rice paper dipped in moonlight. You touch one gently. It bends under your fingertip with a softness that surprises you. The texture is delicate, but not fragile. There's a bounce to it, a subtle resilience that tells you these plants belong here, deeply, firmly. The smell drifting from this plant is bright and citrusy. A callback flashes through your mind, the faint, citrus-scented petal you tucked behind your ear in the earlier grove. You reach up and touch it, still resting in your hair, still smelling faintly sweet. The spirit notices the gesture and nods. Pleased, you remembered. You look around and notice other plants you don't recognize. Some are vine-like, coiling along tree trunks. Others grow in tight clusters at the base of large stones. A few sprout directly from cracks in the bark of old trees, tiny sprouts glowing like natural lanterns. You brush your fingers along a nearby cluster of petals, this one soft blue, almost mist-colored. The smell is faintly salty. It reminds you of shorelines, of sea breezes you've never actually stood in but suddenly feel like you've known your whole life. You whisper partly to yourself, I could bottle this and sell it for a fortune. The spirit gives you a look, the kind that says, please don't start a mystical multi-level marketing scheme. You raise your hands in surrender. Kidding, maybe. There's something grounding about the plants here. Something old. Something forgotten not in the dramatic mythological sense, but in the quiet, everyday sense. Like recipes grandmothers used to make before the ingredients disappeared from the market. You can imagine ancient villagers wandering here centuries ago, plucking leaves, crushing petals, drying roots, healing wounds and calming minds with these herbs long before anyone tried to give them fancy Latin names. You reach for a tall stem topped with tiny yellow blossoms. You expect a sweet scent, but instead the aroma is warm like fresh bread cooling on a wooden table. You inhale again, surprised. The warmth spreads through your throat, down into your chest. You exhale slowly, letting the warmth ripple outward. It reminds you of kitchens, of hearth fires, of home. The spirit touches the stem, then gestures toward you, an invitation to harvest. Carefully, you pinch the stem just below the blossoms and pluck it. The plant doesn't resist. In fact, the petals brighten slightly, as if pleased to be chosen. You place it gently into your palm. The spirit leads you to a different plant. This one grows low to the ground, its leaves thick and waxy. It smells earthy, grounding. You recognize the scent. It's similar to herbs used for calming teas in modern Greece. Mint adjacent, almost. You smile, knowing that at least one thing in this forest has a modern descendant. You glance at the spirit and murmur, so some human traditions are still doing it right. The spirit shrugs as if to say, occasionally. Somewhere in the grove, an owl hoots, once, twice. The sound floats through the grove like a dropped pebble rippling through water. The plants seem to hush at the sound, as if listening too. You wonder idly whether the owl is a messenger or just a nosy night worker in the neighborhood. In Greek myth, owls usually signal wisdom or at least gossip delivered from above. Whether tonight's owl is wise or simply bored remains unclear. Historians debate whether hidden groves like this really existed. Some point to writings from wandering healers who described pocket gardens tended by minor river sons. Others dismiss those accounts as exaggerated travel stories, ancient blog posts. But as you stand here, the debate feels irrelevant. The grove is real, at least to you, and the spirit is definitely not a literary invention, unless your imagination has taken up special effects as a hobby. The spirit crouches beside a stone half buried in the earth. Carved into it is a symbol, an old spiral, familiar like the mark on your pebble. But this one is imperfect, chipped at the edges, half covered by moss. The spirit brushes the moss aside and taps the carved center. The stone hums faintly. You kneel beside it. The hum vibrates through your fingertips, gentle as a cat stretching in sunlight. The spirit picks up a small leaf, one with that citrusy sweetness, and places it in the center of the spiral. The leaf brightens, glows, releases another wave of fragrance. You exhale, tension leaving your body in a slow tide. You whisper, "This grove feels like it remembers things." The spirit nods softly. It gestures toward the grove, then touches its chest, then yours. Another silent explanation. Some plants hold memories, some share them. You are part of this now. You wander again, letting the scents guide you. A vine near the far edge of the grove catches your attention, dark purple leaves shaped like feathers. You run your hand along one, and immediately you smell something smoky. Not unpleasant, just earthy, grounding, like a distant fireplace on a cool evening. You smile. You're kidding. Plants with mood lighting and aromatherapy built in? The spirit lifts its shoulders in a tiny half shrug. You're not sure if it's proud or mildly embarrassed by how dramatic the grove is being. The vine on your wrist pulses again, responding to the scents in the grove, brightening with each breath you take. You touch it gently. It feels warmer than before, alive. A reminder of the moonlit grove you came from and the herb lessons you've only just begun. As you move deeper, the scents layer sweet, citrus, earthy, smoky, salty, clean. None of them clash. It's like the grove has choreographed the aromas to blend into a single calming symphony. Your head feels clearer. Your heartbeat steadier. Your breath slower. You kneel again, placing both hands on the ground. The soil is cool, soft, welcoming. You feel the roots beneath you vibrating faintly. like a network of tiny instruments tuning themselves. The spirit kneels beside you. It picks one petal from a pink bloom and places it behind your ear, your second petal of the night, a sign of progress, perhaps. Or maybe the spirit thinks you'd look more festive with floral accessories. You smile up at it. It smiles back. Then it stands, gestures for you to rise, and points toward a narrow path winding out of the grove. A subtle nudge. It's time to move on. The grove has given what it can. You take one last deep breath, filling your lungs with the layered aromas. You step toward the path, the citrus-scented petal brushing your cheek, the wrist vine glowing faintly, the hidden grove watching silently. You don't look back, but you feel its calm trailing you, like soft fragrance woven through the night. The path out of the aromatic grove tightens into a narrow ribbon of earth that winds between crooked trunks and roots that twist like sleeping serpents. The night has shifted again. The air feels cooler, denser, tinged with the kind of stillness that tells you you're approaching a place that wants to be left alone, or at least approached with a little nervous respect. The river spirit slows its pace, not hesitating exactly, but carrying itself with a kind of reverence you haven't yet seen. You follow quietly, your steps softened by thick moss and fallen leaves. The wrist vine pulses faintly with each heartbeat, and the citrus-scented petal behind your ear releases a delicate fragrance every time you lower your head. The grove's calm lingers around you like a thin, invisible shawl. After several minutes, the trees part, and the shrine appears. It's not large, not a temple, not a monument, just a structure of weathered stone half embraced by vines and roots, like the forest is trying to reclaim it but can't quite commit to the whole takeover. A tall slab of stone leans at an angle, cracked straight down the center. Two smaller stones flank it, forming a crude archway. It looks ancient, older than the grove, older than the path, older maybe than the river itself. A hollow wind sweeps across the stones, humming low and cool, spiraling through the cracks. The sound is eerily familiar, like the whispered patterns the river made when teaching you through silt. The hairs on your arms rise in recognition. The spirit glances back at you, eyes soft but serious, and motions you forward. You step inside. The interior of the shrine is not much more than an open space framed by tall stones, each one carved with spirals, curves, symbols resembling river currents and waves. Some carvings are crisp and deep, protected by shadow. Others are almost erased, worn down to faint lines. Moss curls along the edges of the carvings like decorative trim. A large cracked tablet rests at the shrine's center, leaning against one of the standing stones. It's the same one the spirit revealed earlier by sweeping aside moss. You recognize it instantly, the half-finished symbols etched across its surface, the intricate patterns unfinished, the edges broken. The spirit kneels before the tablet and gestures for you to do the same. You kneel beside it, your knees pressing into the cool, damp stone floor. The cracked tablet hums faintly under your palm, not music, not vibration, but something like an echo of a sound the stone has been holding for centuries. You inhale deep, taking in the scent of moss and aged dust and something faintly metallic, like underwater stone. It reminds you of the grove, only heavier, older, more solemn. The spirit taps the tablet lightly. Then it taps your spiral pebble. Then it taps the carvings around the shrine. A slow explanation begins to form in your mind. These symbols belong to the same ancient language, the same gentle magic that the river has been teaching you. But here, at this shrine, the teachings were once formalized, studied, debated. You run your hand along one of the carvings. The spiral grooves are deep and deliberate. The pattern curves outward from a center point, curling like waves caught in stone. You can almost feel movement beneath your fingertips. You whisper, "This place feels forgotten." The spirit makes a soft, uncertain sound. Not disagreement, not confirmation. Something in between, a gentle shrug in audio form. You stand to explore further. Another stone slab near the back of the shrine catches your eye. This one leans at an angle, half hidden by a curtain of vines. You push the vines aside and squint. More symbols, but these ones are different. Less precise, less harmonious, almost hurried. The lines slope strangely, as though carved by someone uncertain, someone learning. The symbols are accompanied by tiny inscriptions that look like notes or labels or maybe warnings. The spirit steps up beside you and touches one of the slanted carvings. A faint frown crosses its face. You understand immediately. Someone carved these while debating whether the charms and herb rituals actually worked. You murmur, amused. So even in ancient times, people were arguing about everything. The spirit sighs in a way that says, "Don't remind me." You run your fingers over another carving. This one depicts a hand holding a reed, thin, elegant, unmistakable. The same silver-tipped reed the spirit gave you in the moonlit clearing. A callback. A connection. The reed's carved tip glints faintly in the moonlight, streaming from a crack in the shrine's ceiling. You whisper, "They use these reeds in rituals." The spirit nods, then taps the reed carving again, tracing the outline of the hand carefully, reverently. You look around and notice more carvings. A river current curling into a spiral. A leaf releasing tiny glowing droplets. A figure kneeling with hands in silt. Herbs arranged in the shape of a crescent moon. The symbols tell a story, not linear, but layered. A record of people, villagers, apprentices, healers, who came here to learn from river spirits long before your arrival. But the carvings near the back tell a different story. Some are scratched out, some overwritten, some left incomplete. A debate that lasted years, maybe centuries. The mainstream belief was clear. River spirits taught gentle herbal magic, passed down through observation, touch, moonlight, and patience. But another group, less sentimental, perhaps believed these charms were nothing more than comforting superstition. Helpful, sure, but not divine. The cracked tablet at the shrine center seems to hold both viewpoints at once. Half its carvings celebrate the river's teachings. The other half critique them with cold pragmatism. You tap the cracked center. Which side won? The spirit lifts both hands. A gesture that means neither, both. Depends on who you ask. You smile. Historians still debating it, huh? The spirit leans its head from side to side in a very yes but also no rhythm. You step back, letting the moonlight reach the carvings uninterrupted. The light glides across the stone, revealing scratches you hadn't noticed, tiny slashes arranged in a pattern. Not symbols. Not decorations. More like tally marks. You crouch and brush them gently. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. As though someone counted every time a charm worked or didn't. You exhale softly. Whoever carved these took their job extremely seriously. The spirit taps the marks with a knuckle and then points toward the river beyond the shrine. A clear message. Nature remembers differently than people do. You sense something shifting in the air, a deeper hum, a vibration rising from beneath the shrine floor. The cracked tablet glows faintly, the same soft silver as moonlit herbs. You touch it again. This time, the tablet feels warm. The spirit kneels beside you, placing one hand atop yours on the stone surface. A gesture of connection, guidance, trust. Suddenly, a faint breeze slides through the shrine, though no wind exists outside. The moss trembles at the edges of the stones. A thin ribbon of dust lifts into the air, swirling upward like smoke from an unseen fire. The cracked carvings brighten, just for a moment, long enough for the symbols to seem whole again. You see it only for a second, the tablet restored to its full form, its spirals complete, its inscriptions crisp. Then the vision fades like mist under sunlight. You blink, uncertain. Was that real? The spirit merely taps the stone once more. A soft toke, a gentle reassurance. Not everything that is real needs to stay. You run your fingers along the broken edge of the tablet. The cracks don't feel destructive anymore. They feel intentional. Like the shrine is reminding you that knowledge evolves, that debates refine wisdom, and even broken records hold truth. You straighten, brushing dust from your palms. The spirit motions toward a corner of the shrine where a small stone bowl sits half buried under fallen leaves. You kneel to uncover it. Inside rests a bundle of dried herbs, crisp, colorless, but still fragrant. The scent rises softly when you lift the bundle. Earthy, old, familiar. You lift it toward the spirit. The spirit closes your fingers around it gently. A gift, a token, a lesson. You tuck the bundle safely beside your spiral pebble. As you stand, the spirit gestures for you to follow it once more. But before you leave, you turn back toward the cracked tablet. The moonlight touches its surface one last time. You whisper, "Even forgotten shrines still teach." The spirit hears you, smiles softly, then leads you into the night, where the faint, hollow wind still hums through the stones. The shrine watches you go, quiet but not empty. Not anymore. The forest shifts as you leave the shrine, not dramatically, but with the kind of subtle rearrangement that tells you the night itself is turning a page. The path widens, the trees move aside as if politely giving you room, and the air warms enough to loosen your shoulders. The spirit walks just ahead, its form flickering like a candle flame, trying to decide whether it prefers being light or shadow. The scents from the hidden grove still cling to you, the citrusy petal behind your ear, the soft herbal trace from the gift bundle tucked near your spiral pebble. But as you walk, a new smell begins to take their place. Something savory, warm, familiar in a way that makes your stomach perk up like, oh, is this a snack situation? It's not just food, it's the scent of a hearth, of broth simmering in a clay pot, of herbs steeping in a kitchen the way stories steep in old families. The spirit glances at you and gives a small nod. Yes, you're smelling what you think you're smelling. The trees thin again, and suddenly you're standing at the edge of a small village you swear wasn't on any map. Not that you've been checking maps lately, but still this place has the energy of a well-kept secret. A handful of stone houses with low roofs, dim lanterns glowing behind shutters, smoke curling gently from chimneys. Chickens tucked under a wooden awning. A dog sleeping so deeply, it looks more mythical than anything you've met tonight. The spirit gestures for you to follow but slows noticeably, as though entering the village requires not just presence but humility. You match its pace. As you approach the first house, the scent intensifies. A pot of something warm and herbal simmers inside, the aroma drifting through small cracks in the shutters. You hear a soft clatter of pottery, and then hushed voices, gentle, nighttime conversations. The spirit leads you to a wide stone well in the village center. It rests its hand on the rim, looking down, then gestures for you to do the same. You lean over, expecting to see your reflection. Instead, you see herbs tied in tiny bundles, hanging along the well wall, dangling just above the water line, cured by the coolness of the night, preserved for later use. The spirit picks one of the dangling bundles and hands it to you. It's tied with a reed-like twine exactly like the one woven into the charm you're crafting. The bundle smells faintly bitter. A taste memory flickers through your mind, though you haven't tasted it yet. The spirit gestures toward one of the houses. The door creaks open before you knock. An elderly woman steps out, wrapped in a blanket that looks older than the village itself. Her hair is silver, braided down her back. Her eyes widen not out of fear, but recognition when she sees the spirit. She bows her head slightly, the kind of bow you give a teacher who doesn't insist on being treated like one. Then she looks at you, not startled, not confused, just observant, like she knows exactly where you've been and what you're learning. She beckons you inside. You enter a small, warm kitchen lit by a single oil lamp. The walls are lined with shelves of clay jars. The jars are unlabeled because the villagers don't need labels. They know each scent, each color, each shape from memory. Dried sprigs hang overhead in bundles that sway slightly when the door closes. The woman ladles broth from a pot on the hearth and pours it into a clay cup. She hands it to you with a nod. You hesitate for a moment, just long enough to wonder whether you're about to drink something that will turn you into a goat, but the spirit gestures encouragingly. You take a sip. Warm, bitter at first, then oddly soothing. The bitterness fades into an earthy depth that spreads through your chest and loosens something in your ribs you didn't know was tight. You exhale, and your breath feels heavier and lighter at the same time. The woman chuckles softly. Old remedy, she murmurs in a dialect so old it sounds like a lullaby. She taps your cup for grounding. You smile sheepishly. It's strong. She shrugs. Strong keeps you alive. Weak keeps you wandering. You glance at the spirit. It nods in agreement, because apparently it's a universal truth that bitter tea builds character. The woman motions you toward the shelves. She pulls down a jar filled with crushed green leaves and holds it below your nose. The scent is bright, sharp, like mint with a mischievous streak. You feel a tiny jolt of energy, just enough to lift your eyebrows. That one, she says, makes the mind steady. She taps your wrist vine. That one, she adds, makes the spirit steady. You raise your wrist and watch the vine pulse faintly. She seems pleased. Another jar opens, this one, containing orange petals that smell sweet, comforting, almost nostalgic. That one, she says, for sleep. Then another jar, tiny white buds that smell faintly spicy. For courage, she notes casually, in case you find trouble. You smile. Will I? She cocks her head. Only if you look, she says, and you don't look like someone who looks on purpose. You snort. The spirit coughs a laugh without using its lungs. As you explore the shelves, you notice something familiar. Herbs from the grove, herbs from the moonlit clearing, herbs that shimmer beneath water. Some are fresh, some dried, some ground into powders, each with a purpose, each woven into daily life cooking, healing, calming, strengthening. You whisper, you still follow the old teachings. The woman looks at you with eyes that carry centuries. We follow what works, she says simply. River spirits teach. Humans listen, sometimes. She adds the last word pointedly. You raise both hands. I'm listening, I promise. She taps your cup again. Drink more then. You do, even though the bitterness hits your tongue like a polite punch. But the warmth afterwards settles through your limbs beautifully, and the vine on your wrist brightens slightly in response. You glance at the spirit. It touches its temple. You touch yours. A silent exchange. You're absorbing what the village knows, not through words, but through taste, through experience. The woman stirs the pot again. Herbs, she says, tell stories. You taste them, and you taste memory. She gestures to the shelves. We remember the river. The river remembers us. A distant argument drifts through the open window, two villagers debating loudly over which herb should be used in the tomorrow morning stew. One insists on the bright, minty kind. The other swears the smoky vine leaves pair better with goat. Their voices rise, then fall, then rise again. The woman sighs. Every night, she mutters, argue, argue, argue. You ask, do they ever agree? She snorts. Never. If they agreed, the stew would taste normal. You grin. You don't want the stew to taste normal? Of course not, she says. Normal puts people to sleep. Well, you murmur, I guess that's my entire job. The spirit gives you a look that can only be described as, if you make one more joke, I'm telling the river on you. You raise your cup and finish the last sip of the bitter herbal broth. The warmth hums through your body, grounding you thoroughly. Your vision sharpens, but gently, as though the edges of the world have been smoothed and you're allowed to notice more. You thank the woman. She nods once, then she reaches behind you and pulls a small clay bowl from a shelf. In the bowl is a pinch of dried orange petals, the sleep herb. She presses the bowl into your hands. For later, she says, a reminder, another gift, another callback, another piece of knowledge to fold into your charm. When you step outside, the night air meets your skin with a cool kiss. The village hums softly, fires crackling, conversation drifting, goats occasionally making goat-related announcements. Lamps swing gently, casting small halos of warm light across doorways and stone paths. The spirit stands beside you, quiet, watching the village with fond familiarity. It gestures for you to follow once more. The path out of the village stretches ahead, gentle and winding. You turn back to the woman's house. She's watching from her doorway, one hand lifted in a soft farewell. You lift your hand too. And then you follow the spirit into the forest again, the taste of bitter herbs lingering on your tongue, grounding you with every step. The path leaving the village curves gently uphill, the kind of slope that doesn't strain your legs but still makes your breath deepen a little. Dawn hasn't arrived yet, but the night is loosening its grip. The sky above the treetops lightens from ink black to deep blue, a quiet preview of morning. You feel it, the forest shifting, stretching, settling into that liminal space between dark and day. The spirit walks with a new sort of energy, not hurried, but purposeful, focused. The soft glow of your wrist vine flickers in response as though it senses what's coming. The herb bundle you received at the shrine bumps lightly against your side as you move, and the small clay bowl of orange sleep petals from the village woman warms in your hand as though absorbing your body heat. The spirit gestures upward. You look between the trees and see it, a faint strand of golden mist drifting low, swirling lazily close to the ground, thin as spider silk, glowing like a single sunbeam escaped too early. It coils around your ankles as you pass. The spirit brushes its fingers through it, and the mist clings briefly before slipping free again. A callback from your earlier lesson, mist touched by dawn. A sign, a tool, a beginning. You continue following the spirit, stepping over roots and ducking under branches. The forest feels different now, not dark, not bright, but alert. A soft tension, like the world holding its breath. Eventually, the trees open into a clearing, not wide, but circular, surrounded by tall pines, their branches tipped with the first hints of dawn light. The ground is smooth, worn down by who knows how many feet over who knows how many centuries. In the center sits a fallen log, long and straight like a bench carved by nature herself. The spirit motions for you to stand beside it. Then it lifts its hand. A new sound begins, birdsong. Gentle at first, then layering low whistles, tiny chirps, the soft rustle of wings waking in hidden perches. Morning birdsong, woven so subtly into the world that you realize this is your sensory anchor for this lesson. Light will come later. Sound is here now. The spirit steps in front of you and kneels, touching the earth with both palms. You mimic it, palms flat against the cool ground. The soil feels damp from night moisture, soft but steady beneath your hands. The wrist vine pulses lightly, syncing with the rhythm of your breath. The spirit draws a line in the dirt with one finger, then another, then a dot, then a curve. You blink. The symbol looks familiar but only vaguely, a variation of the spirals from the shrine, a simplified form, maybe a beginner's version. The spirit gestures for you to draw the same shape. You try. Your line wobbles. Your curve looks like it's embarrassed to be seen in public. Your dot is too big, but you finish and look up hopefully. The spirit squints at your drawing. You laugh under your breath. It's my first attempt. The spirit nods slowly, like a teacher pretending a student's project is acceptable. Then it wipes your drawing with one sweep of its hand and gestures for you to try again. You exhale. All right, you can do this. You draw more carefully this time, slower, more deliberate. When you finish, the symbol actually looks decent. The spirit taps it twice with approval. Your first task is complete. The spirit rises and gestures toward a tall pine tree at the edge of the clearing. Hanging from one of its low branches is a tiny woven charm made of twine, leaves, and what looks like a scrap of old fabric. You step forward. The charm sways gently in the dawn breeze, glowing faintly where morning light skims its edges. You reach for it. The spirit stops you with a raised hand. Not yet. Instead, it points to the ground beneath the tree. You look down and see a scattering of small stones, smooth river pebbles, like the one you carry, each marked with spirals, lines, or dots. Your second task becomes clear. Find the pebble that matches your wrist vine's pulse. You kneel among the stones, touching them one by one. Some feel cold, some warm, some faintly hum, but not at the right rhythm. The wrist vine pulses lightly, guiding you like a tiny heartbeat compass. Tap, tap, tap. Finally, you touch a stone that pulses back, not perfectly in sync, but close enough that your fingers recognize its rhythm instinctively. You hold it up triumphantly. This one. The spirit smiles an actual visible smile, soft and approving, and nods. You tuck the stone with your spiral-marked pebble, letting them rest together. You're beginning to sense how these objects matter, not because they're powerful individually, but because together they map your progress. Each piece fits into your growing understanding of the river's quiet language. The spirit motions for you to stand. The dawn mist swirls again, drifting through the clearing. It circles your ankles, coils up your shins, then disperses like a sigh. The spirit reaches toward one of the mist strands and draws it toward the fallen log. It settles there, glowing faintly across the wood. Your third task becomes clear and the strangest so far. You must braid the mist, which sounds ridiculous. But so did glowing herbs, vibrating silt, and mood-enhanced vines. So honestly, mist braiding is pretty tame by comparison. The spirit demonstrates. It cups its hands and gently pulls the mist into long, thin strands. Then, with fingers both delicate and impossibly sure, it weaves the strands loosely over, under, over, until the mist forms a fragile, shimmering braid draped across the log. The spirit steps aside. Your turn. You inhale deeply, steadying your breath. Your palms reach into the mist. It swirls around your fingers, cool but not wet. The feeling is strange, like holding air with texture. You gather a strand and pull gently. It stretches like fine thread. You try to weave it. It immediately slips through your fingers and unravels like, "Nice try, rookie." The spirit chuckles silently. You try again, and again, and again. By attempt 7, you mutter, "This feels like trying to braid fog with chopsticks." The spirit raises an eyebrow, which you translate as, "Please stop insulting the mist." You exhale, letting your frustration melt. You soften your hands, loosen your shoulders, and simply feel the mist. It curls around your fingers, a gentle greeting. You breathe in rhythm with it, slow, calm, patient. And then it happens. The mist thickens just enough to hold shape. You weave one strand over the other, then the third, slowly, carefully. The braid forms not perfect, but real. The spirit nods with unmistakable approval. Your third task is complete. A soft breeze slides through the clearing, carrying with it the first hints of dawn light. The sky brightens to a pale, rosy shade. Birds grow louder. The wrist vine glows stronger, responding to the new day. The spirit points to the woven charm hanging from the pine branch again. Now you may take it. You step forward and lift the charm gently. It sways with weight you didn't expect, light but purposeful. The woven reeds feel smooth beneath your fingers. The leaf wrapped at the center still holds the faintest trace of scent, and the fabric scrap tied at the bottom reminds you of something familiar. The spirit watches you closely. You lift the charm to your ear. They're soft, almost like a whisper, a faint echo of the herb grove scents, a hint of the village's bitter broth. the quiet hum of the shrine stones, the cool pulse of river silt, a charm woven of lessons. Your lessons. Your charm now. The spirit lifts its hand and gathers the mist braid from the log. It wraps the braid around the charm, tying it lightly so the mist flickers like a halo around the woven structure. Then the spirit places its palm over your hand. A shared breath. A shared moment. A silent message. Dawn rituals teach patience. Patience teaches connection. Connection creates charm. The spirit gestures upward. The sun pushes above the horizon, spilling gold across the clearing. Light catches your charm, sending tiny reflections across the pine bark, the moss, the soil. Your wrist vine glows bright, the citrus petal flutters against your cheek, and your spiral pebble hums in your pocket. You have completed the dawn trials. The spirit steps back, observing you with a quiet pride you can feel in your bones. The birdsong crescendos gently, as if offering applause. You exhale, slow, steady, a little stunned. The clearing exhales with you, and then the spirit gestures. This lesson is over. But your path continues deeper into the forest, toward the place where charms truly take shape. You tighten your grip on the woven charm, feel the mist braid pulse once, and follow. You follow the spirit along a narrow corridor of trees, the dawn's new light filtering through branches in thin, golden sheets. The air warms with each step, carrying faint scents of dew, earth, and something woody like freshly cut reed stems. Your charm, wrapped in mist braid, swings gently from your hand, humming softly with each movement. The vine around your wrist pulses like a calm heartbeat, syncing with the early morning rhythm of the forest. The spirit moves with quiet certainty now. No hesitation, no curious detours. It knows exactly where it's taking you. You feel it in the way the trees widen before it, in the way the ground smooths beneath your feet, as though other apprentices once took this exact path. The forest air grows thicker, not unpleasantly, but with a sense of purpose, like stepping into a workshop just before its craftspeople arrive. You emerge into a clearing shaped perfectly round, as though carved by a slow-moving river that decided it preferred circles over curves. The earth is packed firm beneath your feet. Several low wooden tables, weathered, moss-trimmed, sun-softened, are arranged in a loose arc around a flat stone slab at the center. Scattered across the tables lie tools, reed knives, smooth stones polished by years of handling, thin wooden spools, and bundles of dried grasses twisted into rope. A quiet workshop ambiance floats around you. Soft rustling leaves, the faint creak of wood settling, distant birds calling lazily into the morning. The spirit gestures for you to step forward. You do, feeling the ground shift from forest soil to a smooth, compacted surface that holds warmth from the rising sun. The spirit taps the stone slab. You understand instantly. This is where charms are made. Not the conceptual ones, not the symbolic ones, the real, tactile ones. The spirit takes your woven charm from your hands and places it gently on the stone. The mist braid flickers, shimmering faintly under the growing daylight. A soft breeze drifts through the clearing, carrying the earthy scent of reeds. Then the spirit motions. Sit, observe, learn by hand. You sit cross-legged beside the slab. The ground is warm beneath you, grounding in a way that feels deeply intentional. Your fingers brush the charm, feeling its textures reed smooth as glass in places, rough in others, leaf centers soft, mist still curling in delicate threads like smoke caught between moments. The spirit selects a tool from one of the wooden tables, a thin knife carved from river bone. It hands it to you handle first. The knife is surprisingly light, balanced. You turn it over in your palm, appreciating the craftsmanship. The spirit nods toward a bundle of reeds on the far table. Your first task? Harvest the fibers. You rise and approach the bundle. The reeds vary in length and color, some pale yellow, some light brown, some almost green. When you touch them, they vibrate faintly. At first, you mistake it for the wind, but no, the reeds respond to your touch, recognizing the vine on your wrist, the herbs in your pocket, the dawn lessons you've passed. You choose a reed, then another, then a third. You return to the slab and lay them down. The spirit shows you how to split the reed lengthwise with a single smooth motion. Your first attempt is questionable. The reed cracks unevenly, splinters fraying outward like it's offended. You grimace. The spirit smirks an expression that says, "It's fine, try again." So you do. Your second attempt is smoother. Your third, better still. Soon you have thin fibers, pliable and pale, smelling faintly sweet like dried wheat left in the sun. The spirit nods at your progress, then gestures toward your spiral pebble. You pull it from your pocket, and its warmth pulses in your palm. The spirit taps the center of the slab. You place the pebble there. It hums faintly, responding to the space, recognizing it, maybe. Then the spirit lays your new reed fibers beside the charm, aligning everything neatly. It points to the fibers, then the charm, then to the air. You understand. The charm isn't finished. The reed fibers are the next layer. You pick up one fiber, it bends easily, softer than paper but stronger than you expect. When you twist it gently, it produces a faint sound almost like a whisper. You pause. The spirit hears it too. It taps your wrist vine. A reminder, listen always. You take 3 fibers, placing their ends together. The spirit demonstrates braiding not tight and compact like the mist, but loose and flowing, like weaving sunlight through water. You mimic the motion. The fibers glide over and under each other with surprising grace, forming a pattern like gently rolling waves. Your braid isn't perfect, but it feels right. The spirit takes your braid, loops it around the charm, and ties it with a knot using river-taught precision. The knot is elegant, curved, elongated, reminiscent of the spiral carvings at the shrine. A symbol of continuity, a connection between water, plant, and hand. Your charm glows faintly. The workshop seems to hold its breath. The spirit hands you another set of fibers, thicker, rougher. These ones must form the foundation. You weave them following the spirit's demonstration. The roughness of the fibers presses into your fingers, grounding you in the tactile rhythm of creation. The smell of the reeds earthy, sun-worn fills your nose. As you work, the spirit scatters small items on the slab. Smooth river stones, polished to marble softness, tiny dried blossoms from the hidden grove, a single silver-tipped reed, a few grains of silk carefully wrapped in a leaf, threads of dawn mist that haven't fully dispersed. You realize the charm will incorporate all of these. You glance at the spirit for confirmation. It nods, so you begin assembling. Carefully, thoughtfully, you weave the reed fibers around the charm's frame. You press the silk bundle gently into the center, feeling its cool texture seep through the leaf. You tuck in the dried blossom from the grove, its citrusy scent drifting upward in faint waves. You wrap the silver-tipped reed into place, its metallic sheen catching in the sun. Then the spirit presents you with the final piece, a thin, braided cord woven from the same silver-tipped reed it gave you earlier. A callback, a thread connecting every lesson. You take the cord, feeling the smoothness of the fibers. This cord will bind the charm together, keep the memories intact, hold the lessons in place. You loop it once, twice, a third time. The spirit places its hand over yours. Together, you tie the knot. A gentle glow pulses from the charm, flowing outward like a ripple across a still pool. The glow touches the mist braid, the reed cords, the dried herbs, the silk bundle. Everything binds. Everything settles. When the light fades, your charm lies complete on the stone slab. You stare at it, breath caught in your throat, It's beautiful, not in a polished, pristine way, but in a grounded, lived-in way. It looks like a piece of the river, a whisper of the grove, a fragment of dawn, a memory of the shrine, a taste of the village, a living charm, yours. You pick it up carefully. The charm warms your hand. The wrist vine glows in response. Even the spiral pebble hums faintly. The spirit steps back, watching with quiet pride. Then it gestures toward your finished charm and makes a sweeping motion outward toward the forest beyond. You understand. This charm isn't just crafted. It's meant to be used. You rise slowly, closing your fingers around it. You feel the textures, the warmth, the softness, the gentle weight of everything you've learned. You phase back into the forest with a new certainty in your step, a new calm in your chest, a new responsibility to carry this charm and its peaceful magic into the next chapter of your journey. The spirit turns, drifting toward the deeper woods where shadows shift in slow, deliberate shapes. You follow, charm in hand. The forest grows quieter as you follow the spirit deeper into its heart. Quieter in that particular way, dawn woods become still, as though the world is pausing to listen to a story about to be told. The sun hasn't climbed high yet. Its light comes in thin, honey-colored streaks slipping between the pines. Every beam feels intentional, illuminating patches of moss, small stones, and roots with a kind of reverence. Your charm rests in your hand, warm and soft, humming with a steady pulse like a quiet heartbeat. The spiral pebble in your pocket vibrates, just faintly, as if aware you're nearing something significant. The wristvine glows with a soft green luminosity, subtle but constant. The spirit moves slower now, not tired, not hesitant, just deliberate, as if the next place you're going isn't a lesson, but a confession. You step over a fallen log. A bird flits past, sending a tiny shiver of sound through the clearing, and then you hear it water, not rushing, not babbling. A soft, twilight kind of sound, the murmur of a pool fed by an underground source. The spirit pushes aside a curtain of branches. You step through. Before you lies a quiet basin of perfectly still water, encircled by smooth, white stones shaped into a natural ring. The pool is shallow, wide, and so calm that the sky above reflects in it without warping. The water surface is glass, dyed gold by the early morning sun. A chorus of tiny evening insects still active at dawn creates a soft, ringing ambience. This is the place. You know it instantly. The spirit approaches the water's edge and kneels. The reflection in the pool mirrors the spirit's form, but with curious distortions like the water knows the truth better than the eye does. You kneel beside it. The spirit places one hand just above the surface, not touching it. The water responds anyway. Ripples form outward in slow, even waves, though nothing has disturbed it. The reflection shifts again. You lean in closer to see what the water is showing you. At first, it's nothing but the reflection of trees and sky. Then it changes. Slowly, shapes swirl into view beneath the surface, not visible in the actual water, only in the reflection. You see a younger version of the spirit, standing alone at the river's edge, hands cupped, holding glowing herbs, its form flickering in and out like a wavering flame. You blink. The reflection remains. The spirit sighs, yes, actually sighs soft and long, like someone opening a box of old memories. It traces a line across the water's surface, and the reflection drifts into another scene. You see a river, not the one you've been walking beside tonight, but a wider one, darker, flowing through a valley you don't recognize. Shapes emerge along the banks. People, villagers, ritualists, healers and wanderers, all stepping into the water, kneeling beside it, offering small bundles of herbs or braided reeds. Some bow their heads, some whisper, some laugh as though greeting a friend, but none of them look at the minor spirit, not once, even when it stands among them. glowing faintly, trying to imitate their gestures, their rituals, their motions. You feel a tug in your chest, a quiet ache, the kind you feel when watching someone try to join a conversation where no one thinks to make room. The spirit taps the water again. The reflection changes. Now you see the spirit sitting alone behind a stone near the shore, watching the villagers. Not jealous, not bitter, just yearning, learning, trying to understand the rituals from a distance. You whisper, "You weren't always a teacher." The spirit nods. Another ripple, another image. This one shows the spirit kneeling at the edge of a moonlit clearing near herbs identical to the ones from the grove you visited. Except this time, the spirit's actions are awkward, uncertain. It tries to pluck a glowing leaf and fails. It tries to braid mist and fails. It tries to read river silt but gets distracted every 10 seconds. You bite back a laugh. It's oddly adorable. The spirit gives you a look, half exasperated, half self-aware. You murmur. You learned slowly, didn't you? It nods again. A ripple passes over the pool. A new scene forms. The spirit, now older, stronger, more confident, stands before the cracked shrine you visited. It carves spirals into stone with its fingertip, testing shapes, revising, erasing, trying again. Sometimes it looks frustrated, sometimes amused, sometimes thoughtful. People come and go, debating charms, arguing about the rituals, carving their theories into stone. But still, none of them look at the spirit directly. They treat it like part of the scenery. Useful, perhaps, but invisible. The spirit watches its younger self in the reflection. Its eyes soften not with sadness, but with understanding. It taps the tablet carving again. You whisper, "You taught yourself, piece by piece." It nods. The next ripple comes. This reflection is different. You see the spirit again, but now it's not alone. It sits in a grove, surrounded by small animals, birds, rabbits, even a fox. They gather near it, watching as it experiments with herbs. They approach cautiously, sniffing leaves, nudging roots. They tilt their heads as the spirit mimics human gestures, braiding reeds, forming spirals in the soil. It's the animals who recognize it first. They respond when it creates a successful charm. They curl near its feet when a calming herb is properly prepared. They scatter when it makes mistakes. You laugh softly. "That's how you practiced?" The spirit shrugs, then gives you a small smile that says, "A teacher takes students where they find them." The water ripples again. The scene now is softer, more abstract flashes of light and shadow, herbs dissolving into mist, silt spiraling into patterns, moonlight bending into filaments. And the spirit at the center of it all, not guiding but guided, not controlling but connected. The final reflection comes slowly. You see the river, this river, the one you've walked beside all night. You see the spirit kneeling just where you first saw it. And then you see yourself, touching dew, feeling silt, gathering herbs, holding the charm, listening. You inhale sharply. The spirit watches you with a gentle, almost shy expression, a look that says, "You're part of this story too. You're a continuation, not a visitor." The pool releases a final ring of ripples. The images dissolve. The water returns to stillness. You whisper into the quiet, "Thank you for showing me." The spirit taps the center of your chest with two fingers light, grounding. A single message. You were meant to see. You step back from the water's edge, letting the images sink into you like roots into soil. A gentle wind moves through the clearing, carrying the faintest smell of dawn air and riverstone. The spirit stands and gestures toward a narrow path, leading deeper into the woods. You tighten your grip on your charm. You are ready. The final lesson awaits. The spirit turns from the reflection pool and steps quietly toward a narrow path woven between tall reeds and leaning pines. The morning light has settled gently into the forest now, warming the air, brightening the moss, and coaxing tiny motes of gold dust to dance in sunbeams. The forest has a softness to it like a lull in a long conversation where both sides simply breathe and understand. You follow. Your charm hangs from your hand, warm with a steady pulse. The spiral pebble hums faintly in your pocket. The wrist vine glows with a soft, green warmth. Every piece you've collected feels active now, alive, waiting for the moment they will be asked to become something more, something final. The spirit glides ahead, patient, not hurrying you. It senses without looking back that you're absorbing everything. The ground beneath you becomes smoother, cleaner, as if you are crossing from forest into sacred ground. And then, suddenly, the trees part. You step into a wide, serene hollow shaped like a natural amphitheater. Grasses ripple in pale green waves under the morning breeze. Stones arranged in an imperfect ring rise slightly from the soil, each carved with faint spiral symbols like the ones from the shrine, some crisp, some cracked, some nearly vanished. A soft night breeze lingers here despite the daylight, cooling your face. The spirit stops at the center of the hollow. A calm night breeze flows through this sunlit place, as if dusk and dawn have agreed to share custody. The light is warm, the air is cool. It's a perfect balance, a place where peaceful charms are completed. You step into the circle. The stones seem to recognize you, or maybe they recognize the charm in your hand. Either way, the hollow hums softly. A low vibration, subtle, soothing, like the forest is breathing with you. The spirit gestures for you to sit. You lower yourself onto the grass, soft, springy, warm from the sun. Your charm rests on your knees, glowing faintly. The spirit kneels across from you and touches the ground between you with its palm. The earth responds. A soft pulse spreads outward in a ripple. You can see the grass bending, the dust stirring, the stones vibrating gently. This is not dramatic magic. It is not thunder or lightning or divine spectacle. It is quiet, deep, patient. The spirit taps the center of the ripple, then taps your charm, then taps your heart. You understand. This is where meaning is added, where the charm becomes more than ingredients, where your journey threads into the object you've made. The spirit begins. It extends one hand, and the faint scent of citrus from the grove drifts through the hollow. Your mind returns to the hidden grove, the pink blossoms, the glowing vines, the warm bread aroma, the grounded sweetness. Without speaking, the spirit reminds you. This herb taught calm. Calm is part of the charm. Your charm warms. The spirit lifts its other hand, and the morning breeze shifts. You smell bitter herbs, the grounding broth from the village. You remember the warmth in your chest when you drank it, the woman's unbothered wisdom. The villagers' debates. The laughter. The earthiness of folk medicine that didn't need textbooks to justify itself. Another message. Wisdom passed through taste is still wisdom. Grounding is part of the charm. Your charm hums softly. Then the spirit gestures toward your wrist vine. It brightens, once, twice, pulsing with the steady rhythm of your heart. You remember the moonlit clearing, the glowing herbs, the vine tying itself around your wrist, the plants that shimmered only when the moon approved. A lesson in observation, patience, quiet. Another message. Light reveals calm truths. Patience is part of the charm. Your charm glows faintly. The spirit then presses its palm lightly to the soil. The earth responds with coolness. You remember the river silt, its silky whisper, the way it moved around your ankles, the way the roots communicated through it, the quiet vibration beneath your fingertips. You remember the silt spiral aligning with your pebble, Attunement is part of the charm. Your charm vibrates gently. Finally, the spirit extends 2 fingers and draws a slow spiral in the air above your charm. The spiral hangs like a thread of soft light. You remember each spiral you've encountered: the carved stone tablet, the imperfect marks at the shrine, the pebble in your pocket, the silt pattern shifting under the river's breath. The spirit taps its own chest, then yours. Understanding is part of the charm. Connection is part of the charm. You are part of the charm. The spiral of light drops into your charm. A faint, calming warmth spreads through your palms. The wind stills. Birdsong pauses. Even the insects quiet. The world waits. The spirit touches your charm with both hands. It bows its head, not dramatically, not ceremonially, but with the simple gravity of someone acknowledging your effort. Then it gestures, your turn. Bind everything. You inhale slowly. The charm sits in your palms, glowing softly. You feel every layer of it. The reed fibers, rough and smooth. The dried blossoms, citrusy and warm. The silk bundle, cool and grounding. The mist braid, delicate but resilient. The silver-tipped reed, shining faintly. The dawn warmth. The grove's peace. The village's wisdom. The shrine's debate. The river's patient lessons. You raise the charm to your chest. Your heartbeat changes, slowing, deepening, sinking with something older than the forest, older than the stones, older than the river spirit itself. It's a soft, steady rhythm that feels like a combination of everything you've touched tonight. You close your eyes, you breathe in, you focus on your connection with the river, the herbs, the silt, the moonlight, the village, the grove. Each breath deepens the glow of your charm. Each exhale binds a lesson into its weave. Your fingers tighten gently around the charm. A pulse strong and warm moves from your chest into the charm. You feel it. The charm awakens, not with light, not with sound, but with presence, a serene, living presence that sits lightly in your palms like the calm weight of a sleeping bird. You open your eyes, and the spirit watches you with quiet pride. It gestures to the charm, then gestures outward to the world. A simple message. This peaceful magic is meant to be carried, not kept. You look around the hollow. The stones give a faint hum. The grasses whisper softly. A breeze moves through, gentle and cool night, somehow returning just enough to say farewell. You lift the charm to your chest. It warms in response, soft, steady, alive. The spirit steps forward and places its hand lightly over yours. You feel gratitude. Old, deep gratitude that isn't spoken aloud. A connection formed not through power, but through patience. You whisper, "Thank you." The spirit nods, touches your forehead lightly with the tips of its fingers. You feel a faint ripple like water greeting your skin. A blessing, a quiet one. Then the spirit begins to fade, not vanish, just blend. Its edges blur into the breeze. Its outline softens into the sunlight. Its glow dissolves into the shifting shadows of the hollow. It becomes part of the place, part of the river, part of the whispering herbs, part of the silt, part of the gentle, quiet magic you learned tonight. You clutch your charm softly, letting its warmth guide your breath. The hollow dims slightly, then brightens, then settles. Your journey, this part of it, is complete. And the charm, glowing faintly in your hands, carries everything you need forward. Now the forest begins to drift away, not vanish, not collapse, just ease back into stillness, like a story closing its eyes. The air softens, the light dims. Even your charm quiets, its glow settling into a slow, steady pulse, matching the rhythm of your breath. You sit in the center of the hollow a little longer, letting your shoulders release every last bit of tension. The stone ring around you feels like a protective circle, a gentle boundary holding you safely inside. Grass bends softly beneath your palms. The cool night breeze returns just enough to brush your cheek, like the forest giving one last good night. In the distance, the river murmurs, not calling you, not teaching, just existing. A familiar sound, steady and peaceful, reminding you that calm paths are always there to return to. The smell of herbs, citrus, earthy, bitter, warm bread lingers faintly in the air, a tapestry of scents you can carry with you long after you leave this place. You breathe slowly, deeply. Your charm rests against your chest, warm and grounded, holding every lesson the night offered. And your body begins to match that same quiet rhythm, heart slower, breath deeper, thoughts softer. Nothing is rushing here. Nothing is loud. Nothing demands your attention. Even the forest seems to hum a lullaby written just for you. You feel safe. You feel held. You feel at peace. So let your eyes grow heavy now. Let your breath guide you into the soft space between waking and sleep. Let the gentle magic of river herbs, moonlit mist, and dawn warmth settle into your dreams. You've walked far. You've learned well. And now it's time to rest.